Ua ki nga ngata tau o te pōtu ia te hono whiri a te hono. Te hono ki a wai, te hono ki a rua. Rua te pūkenga, rua te horahora, rua te wanawana, rua te atamai, rua matua take o tāne. Tēnei au he pūkenga, he wānanga e are nei te taringa ki te whakarongo. Ko ngā taringa rongo mai taha nui, rongo mai taha rangi o tūpai whakarongo wānanga. Ko te hono o tēnei ka mau. Mau whiwhia, mau rawea ka puta ki te whai ao, puta ki te ao marama. Tō ia mai ngā ho te pō, tō ia mai ngā ho te ao. Re nā te taukāi a tāngata. Re nā te taukāi a wānanga. Kia kōkiri ki tūārangi, kia whakamaua kia tīna. Haumi e, hui e, tāiki e. A kā tira, kei ngā mau ngā whakahi, kei ngā wai whakatere taniwha. O tēnā rohe, no runga o te motu, haere mai, whakatata mai, piki mai rā, nau mai rā, ki runga ki au, ki runga o te kahutōpuni, o tūperiri, tēnei e hakatau nei, i te kaupapa, nānei whakakotahi ai tātou roto i te rangi nei. Haere mai rā, kei ngā tapu, kei ngā ihi, kei ngā wehi, kei ngā mana. Kia haka nui tahi tātou, i ngā pūkenga, i ngā wānanga, e haka nui nei, i roto i tā tātou kaupapa. Haere mai rā. Pikauria mai rā ngā mate, ngā itua, kei runga i a kūtau, kia tūhono ki e rao ngā mate, kei runga i a mātau, kia mihihia, kia tangihia, kia poroporo aki tahi tātou, i runga hoki tā tātou kaupapa. A kā tira tēnei ka whakahua, tō tātou whae, taho tō tiraha mai nā, ki runga o rewiti, ki roto i tō tātou whare o te tāu, e te whetu mārama, kou taura, whakangaro atu rā, kia nunui mā, kia roroa mā, ki te winui o te pō ki a kūtau. Hau ki mai ngā rārangi kōrero, kia tātou e te hunga ora. Ono kei te pirimia, te nākoe. Hera mai rā, ara takina mai rā, tātou manuhiri. Kurunga hoki te kaupapa o te rā. Koe me ngā minita, o te kāwana, kā tira, kei ngā rangatira, kei ngā tapu nui, kei ngā mana nui, kei wainga nui a kūtau. Hera mai rā. Ai harai te mea, hakatoroa e ne kōrero, hore kau. O no, hakatau i a tātou, me te kaupapa whakahira, kei mo i a tātou roto i te ahiahi pōnei. Tēnā hūtau, kia ora hui mai anō tātou katoa. It's indeed an honour and a privilege to be able to stand here and extend a voice of welcome on behalf of my people of Te Tāu, of Te Uringutu, of Ngāoho, of Ngāti Whātua o Rāke, and we welcome you to our tribal lands upon the kahuptōpuni o Tūperiri. Beneath the gaze of our ancestral mountain, Mau Ngā Whau, and upon our ancestral waterways of the Waitemata, that carries the memories of those who have loved, who have gone beyond the veil, and we wish them well, and we bid them well, farewell, and may they rest in peace. Then I turn my thoughts to us here. Now welcome our Prime Minister this evening, along with the Ministers of the Crown and all our distinguished guests, here to celebrate writing excellence across Aotearoa. And so it's in that mind and in that heart that I extend this voice of welcome. Tēnā kūtau, kia ora hui mai anō tātou katoa. He aha te hau, e wawara mai. He tiu he rā ki nāna ia mai te puputara ki hiki uta. He tiki nā tu e au, te kotiu ko ia te pou. Te pou hakairo kātu, ki wai te mātai oku Wairangi e kōkiri. Enjoy the evening.
Ngā mihi nui kia koe e o tēnei. Thank you for that mihi. We feel very honoured that you and Ngāti Whātua have given this event your blessing. Ladies and gentlemen, special guests, tēnā koutou katoa, ngā mihi nunui. I'm Nicola Leggett, the chair of the New Zealand Book Awards Trust. On behalf of my fellow trustees, I am so delighted to welcome you all to the 2024 Ockham New Zealand Book Awards, the 56th year of our National Book Awards. Welcome to those also who are watching us from elsewhere on the live stream. A warm welcome to our special guests, including the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Christopher Luxon, the Minister for Arts, Culture and Heritage, the Honourable Paul Goldsmith, Opposition Spokesperson for the Arts, Rachel Boyack, Auckland Council Deputy Mayor Desley Simpson, and councillors and local board members Richard Hills, Shane Henderson and Genevieve Sage. Chief Executive of Creative New Zealand, Stephen Wainwright, and the Chair of the Auckland Writers Festival Trust, Lee Melville, her fellow trustees and festival patrons. A huge welcome and enormous thanks go to our funders and partners. First, Ockham Residential, our cornerstone partner and pivotal early supporter whose great vision and generosity sustains these awards. Mark and Will, it's great to see so many of the Ockham whānau and friends here tonight, and we so value and enjoy our long relationship with you. The late Jan Medlicott, through the Acorn Foundation, the truly wonderful funder of our Generous Victim Prize, who we miss so much. Creative New Zealand, loyal supporter for several decades. I'd like to pay special thanks to CNZ's outgoing Chief Executive, Stephen Wainwright, who attends the Ockhams in that capacity for the last time this year. Stephen, we are so grateful for the support of CNZ for these awards and your belief in them. It's been an absolute pleasure to have worked with you over the past many years, and we wish you all the best. Booksellers Aotearoa New Zealand, enthusiastic supporters of the Illustrated Non-Fiction Award. Peter and Mary Biggs, who are fresh from another fabulously successful Featherston book town and whose long commitment to supporting New Zealand poets drives their support of the Poetry Award. And finally, the Matatuhi Foundation, established by the Auckland Writers Festival to provide another funding channel for literature, the generous funder of all four of the best First Book Awards. Between them, all these funders have made it possible for us to award $125,000 in prizes tonight. I'd also like to acknowledge the financial support provided to the New Zealand Book Awards Trust itself by the Ockham Collective, the charitable trust set up by Ockham's founders to support people and organisations operating in fields that are close to their hearts, education and the arts. And it's so great to have a 2024 Ockham Collective resident, Nigel Gavin, and his band Vox Nova playing the tunes for us tonight. Sincere thanks go to the Auckland Writers Festival Trust, the festival team and the production crew who have been so helpful to us in staging the event. We really value this long partnership. Thanks also to the Academy of New Zealand Literature and the mighty Coalition for Books, whose fantastic new Kete website, which is all about New Zealand books, will launch next month. And I'd just like to pay a special tribute to the Book Awards Trust manager, Belinda Cook, who's worked so hard to make this event possible, the awards administrator, Chris Chan, and my fellow trustees at the Trust, fabulous people all. And so, to tonight's category finalists, 16 fantastic authors who demonstrate so vividly how critical books are to the national conversation and the national imagination. Congratulations, we're all so proud of you, and it will be a great privilege to hear you read to us tonight. To the publishers, 11 different houses this year, who stand alongside you, invest in you and believe in you, we salute you, as we do the booksellers and librarians who put New Zealand books in readers' hands. As for any sector exposed to retail, this is a tough year to be an author, a publisher and a bookseller, and it was a very tough week for some of us last week. But we are here to celebrate the grit and brilliance that so typifies our sector of the arts, and indeed of commerce. Prime Minister, since we have you in the room with us, forgive me a small aside about the contribution. I'm sure you have people forgiving you constantly. The publishing sector makes to the economy, estimated as a total GDP impact of over $290 million a year, and also earning export dollars and international profile for Aotearoa as book rights are sold around the world and our books are, on happy occasions, made into movies. Where we mount major initiatives, as at Frankfurt in 2012, Taipei in 2015, and we hope Bologna in 2027, trade opportunities run in tandem, all much needed by New Zealand Inc. It's a sector that receives only modest levels of government support, but yet totally punches above its weight, as these finalist books and their writers show. Productivity, passion, persistence, that's every publishing house, every bookshop, and every writer. I'd like now to turn to our 14 heroic judges, who last August started with 171 entries and have since read thousands upon thousands of words and engaged in deep discussion with each other to select the 4 winners, plus the 4 best first book winners announced tonight. Please allow me to thank them individually now. For general non-fiction, Jim Tully, Kerry Sunderland, and Rebecca Kiddle. For poetry, Eric Kennedy, True Paraha, and Dougal McNeill. For illustrated non-fiction, Lynn Freeman, Marianne Hargraves, and Ane Tonga. For fiction, Juliet Blythe, Kiran Das, and Anthony Lapwood, joined in judging the winner by British writer Natalie Haynes. And for Te Muro o Te Tuhi, the Māori Language Award, Para One Gloin. Thank you all. Whoever wins tonight, may I urge you, if you haven't already, read all these books. You can buy them outside in the bookshop afterwards. You won't regret it. It is now my great honour to welcome to the stage the Prime Minister of New Zealand, Christopher Luxon.
Ka nui te mihi kia koutou, kia ora and good evening everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Good evening ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and distinguished members of New Zealand's literary community. It is a great privilege to be here at the Ockham Book Awards. Ka mihi ki te mana mawhenua ko Ngāti Whātua o Rākei. And can I also acknowledge Nicola, Chair of the New Zealand Book Awards Trust, Mark Todd, co-founder and CEO of Ockham Residential, and the sponsorship that's now been in place for over 6 years, to Jack Tame, our MC, also to Deputy Mayor Desley Simpson, Minister Goldsmith and other parliamentary colleagues. It's good to see you all here. This evening we come together not just to celebrate the outstanding achievements of our writers, but also to recognise the significant heritage of these awards, now in their 56th year. These awards play an important role in the cultural life of New Zealand, highlighting the importance of literature in understanding ourselves and the world around us. The stories we tell are central to our national identity. A good book can be a wonderful source of entertainment, escape and enjoyment, but literature can also offer us insights and perspectives that encourage our lives and also open our minds. For our young people in particular, that exposure through imagination to different worlds and new ideas can be particularly important when it comes to thinking about and seizing all the possibilities that life has to offer. I'd like to thank the sponsors of these awards and say that your support is vital in ensuring that New Zealand literature continues to thrive and to reach audiences both here and abroad. Your commitment to the arts is greatly appreciated. And I also want to acknowledge the long-standing support of Creative New Zealand, the cornerstone funder of the awards for many years. Your dedication to nurturing the literary arts in our country has been instrumental in fostering a vibrant and dynamic literary community. And to our publishers, your dedication to New Zealand publishing, as Nicola alluded to, is fundamental to the success of our great writers and our literary landscape. You bring our stories to life, making it possible for them to reach readers across the country and beyond. Your efforts are at the heart of our literary achievements. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the finalists. Your work is testament to the power of literature to shape and define our national culture. Your books are a reflection of your creativity, your insight and your intellect, and contribute significantly to our national narrative. And as we announce the winners in each category tonight, let us also celebrate the contributions of every author who has shared their story with us. You may have seen recently that the government has announced a new initiative called a Literacy Guarantee to ensure that we are teaching our children to read with the very best methods. It is my great hope that the next generation of young Kiwis will grow up with a love of reading and that many of them will go on to become great Kiwi writers like the ones that we are here to celebrate tonight. In closing, the Ockham New Zealand Book Awards are a highlight of our literary calendar and the enduring significance of storytelling in shaping our cultural identity. To everyone involved in bringing these awards to fruition, from the New Zealand Book Awards Trust, to the authors, to the publishers, to the sponsors, and all who have played a role in this celebration of literature, I offer my deepest thanks. Thank you, and let's continue to support and celebrate the great stories that define us as a nation. Thank you.
Prime Minister, thank you. So, we're about to begin. Ladies and gentlemen, I leave you in the capable hands of our MC, Jack Tane.
E mihi ana ki te rangi, e mihi ana ki te whenua, e mihi ana ki ngā tūpuna i te pō, e mihi ana ki ngā uri i te awātea, tēnā koutou katoa. Ki aure te iwi ko haere mai ki tēnei whakanui ki ngā tohu puka o Aotearoa i te tau 2024. Ki te haukainga o tēnei wahi, Ngāti Whātua ora kei tēnā koutou. Nā mihi ki te rangatira e o tene i te mihi whakatau he pōhiri tino mahana i tēnei pō. Ki te Premier, kōrua ko te minita i ngā toi o Aotearoa, e Paul Goldsmith, kia ora kōrua. Ko tēnei te marama o te budget, ne? E rua nā wiki, pia? Nā reira, e hia mō ana tātou i te pūtea hau, te pūtea tino nui i ngā toi i Aotearoa. Ko tēnei te whakamoimiti ki a Nicola, koutou ko ngā kai whakariti o tēnei hui. Ki ngā kai tuhi, kua tai mai, ka whiwhi ngā tohu, kia kaha i o koutou pānui i tēnei pō. Karawhio a koutou. Nā reira, kia tātou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. It doesn't have soul. May 15th, 2024, and I don't know about you, but it feels like we are at a pivotal juncture in the progression of language and stories. For however many tens of thousands of years, storytelling and the role that it plays in our lives and our societies has been one of those qualities, one of those really human qualities that distinguishes us as a species. And yet, for all the AI hype, all the gaga, all the billions upon billions poured into what is supposedly the defining technology of this moment, the soaring stock prices, the silicon chip wars, our supposed greatest achievement as intelligent beings, the sum of our progress as a species, and yet it still doesn't have soul. Kia ora. Welcome to the 2024 Ockham New Zealand Book Awards. Tonight is a celebration of soul. And I have to say, in the years that I have been privileged to be in this position, yeesh, no Ockham shortlist has struck me quite like this one. Across 16 titles tonight, we celebrate the very best writing, publishing and storytelling in Aotearoa. The kind of writing and publishing to stir emotion and meaning even among the most lifeless in our midst. The kind of stories that don't rely on a single trick or simply beating down. The kind of stories with the richness and variety to reflect the range of our experience. Tonight's shortlisted titles span oceans, whenua, political affiliations and socio-economic strata. Whānau and fungi. They span generations and reflect the diversity of modern New Zealand. the tangata whenua and recent migrant experience. If only to emphasise the quality of this year's shortlisted works, to really hammer home the point, all 4 of the shortlisted authors for the Jan Medlicott Acorn Prize for Fiction are previous winners of that very prize. In other words, 2024 isn't just a best of, it is a best of the best of. Shortly, we're going to have an opportunity to hear from each of the shortlisted authors across non-fiction, poetry, illustrated non-fiction and fiction. For now, though, Nigel Gavin and Vox Nova are doing the beats, so please make sure you don't interrupt them. Put your phone on silent, and we will get into the first awards of this evening. For 2024, our first awards are the Matatuhi Foundation Best First Book Awards. They recognise a work of quality from an author for whom the entry is their first published book in any genre. The Matatuhi Foundation stepped in as a funder last year, and we are extremely grateful for their ongoing commitment to these very important awards. So to present them, please welcome one of the Foundation's trustees, Paula Morris. Now, these Best First Book Awards are each named for an esteemed New Zealand writer and have played an important part in our cultural history for many years, with the oldest prize now dating back more than 8 decades. Past recipients include some names you might recognise, including Ockham contenders tonight, Emily Perkins, Pip Adam, Eleanor Catton and Gregory O'Brien. Each Best First Book winner will receive a prize of $3,000 and a 12-month membership to the New Zealand Society of Authors. Writers, when we announce your name, as I told you beforehand, please come up to the stage with your publisher to receive your award from Paula. Down here, Lyndon Cartini is going to take a group photo of you. Look for the man with the smiling face and the big lens. Then head over to that lectern to make a small speech. So, in the Matatuhi Best First Book Awards for 2024, the winner of the E.H. McCormick Prize for General Non-Fiction is Emma Wihipeihana for There's a Cure for This, published by Penguin Random House.
Mihi ana kia koutou, no mai haere mai, I tēnei pōmo, tēnei kaupapa whakahirahira, tēnā koe o tēne Ngāti Whātua Rākei mō tō korowai manaaki mō koutou katoa. As a doctor, I've seen the inside of most orifices in the human body and held the viscera of the living and the dead, and I can tell you without a doubt that it's the arts and artists who elevate our existence from being sacks of meat circling a dying star to something magical, something with meaning. Thank you. Fund the arts.
The judges described There's a Cure for This as, quote, an engaging, witty and sometimes confronting memoir of a young Māori medical student and doctor that highlights the racism and structural inequalities in our health system in an infinitely readable way. So congratulations, Emma. Next up, the 2024 Best First Book winner of the Jessie Mackay Prize for Poetry is Megan Kitching for At the Point of Seeing, published by Otago University Press. At the Point of Seeing, say the judges, is one of the most accomplished debuts you're likely to encounter. Megan Kitching's warm-blooded and inquiring poems take the reader into an Aotearoa landscape and a moral universe that they will want to explore over and over again. Congratulations.
Oh, wow, okay. I feel like I've been saying thank you repeatedly ever since I published my first collection. Huge thanks to Sue Wharton and the wonderful team at Otago University Press, Anna Hodge for your editing, John Kitching for the fabulous cover photo. So many friends and fellow poets made this book possible. Thank you to the funders and the organisers who've brought us all here tonight. Thank you also to the judges. And this is really for all those readers who've given my book their precious attention and found something in it. So I feel incredibly fortunate. Thank you.
Congratulations, Megan. The 2024 winner of the Judith Binney Prize for Illustrated Non-Fiction is Ryan Bodman for Rugby League in New Zealand, A People's History, published by Bridget Williams Books. You don't have to like sport, say the judges, to be enchanted by this meticulously researched and engagingly written social history, packed full of stories, and with photographs that add a fascinating insight, whether on the margins or in the mainstream. Congratulations, Ryan.
Thank you very much for this acknowledgement. I have to thank and praise the Lord for his many blessings. I'd like to thank my family, Holly, Rosa, Archie, pay attention, and my mates, Tom, Matt, Joey, thanks for coming out. Anyone else who's here? The publisher, Katrina, Tom, BWB, massive honour for me, so thank you very much.
Congratulations. Time now for our final Best First Book Award for 2024. And the winner of the Hubert Church Prize for Fiction is Emma Hislop for Ruin and Other Stories, published by Te Herenga Waka University Press. The judges call Ruin a powerful collection exhibiting artful control. Hislop's portrayals are perceptive with insistent humanity of characterization. These refined and compelling stories introduce a striking new voice to our literature. Congratulations, Emma.
Speech. Classes. Tēnā koutou katoa, ko hui mai nei, tēnei te mihi kia koutou, e te mana whenua, e te whare. E mihi ana a hau ki te kai karakia, me kai kōrero i whakatau i a tātou i tēnei rā. E mihi hoki ki oku hoa kaitoi Māori, mō koutou a hau i Manaaki, i tautoko i kāwā katoa. Ka nui taku mihi kia koutou, kai te mihi, kai te mihi. Ka huri ki te reo Pākehā anei. Thank you to the Matatui Foundation. Thank you to the judges. It was an honour for Ruin to be read so deeply, to be included on the long list, and now to be awarded Best First Book. Congratulations to all the writers on the short list and to writers everywhere. Thank you for writing. I also want to thank Te Herenga Waka University Press, especially my editor Anna Knox for her skills and kindness, and my publicist Tay Tibble, who was a massive support. I had no idea about the business of having a book out. To Maiangi Waitai, who allowed me to put her amazing mahi toy on the cover. I want to thank my friend Pip Adam, who was my mentor for 6 months towards the end of this 10-year project. Ruin is undoubtedly better because of the questions Pip asked me to interrogate the work. To my whānau, Muz and Lenny, Anna and Rick, Cosmo and Etta for their love and support. Nani and Koko, this is for you. In the words of the Waiata, e hara e te mea, no anaia te aroha, no ngā tūpuna, e tuku ihoi, e tuku iho, nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, katoa.
Congratulations to all of our Best First Book Award winners, and thank you to the Matatuhi Foundation for your ongoing support of them, and to trustee Paula Morris. Very shortly, we're going to hear readings from our 16 shortlisted authors this evening, but before we do, this year we are honoured to be presenting Te Muro o Te Tuhi, a discretionary award given to a book written entirely and originally in Te Reo Māori. The recipient of Te Muro o Te Tuhi will receive $12,000. So to present the award this evening, please welcome the Chief Executive of Creative New Zealand, Stephen Wainwright, and to announce the 2024 recipient, Te Reo Māori Judge, Paraone Gloin.
Kei ngā huanga, a Ngāti Whātua, tēnā rā koutou. O tēnei whakatau nei, tātātou hui tēnei pō. Korangatira te pō i a koe, a tēnā koe tēnā koutou. Awatira kei te primia, ai ngā mana e ngā reo. Ko hau tēnei, ko tainui waka, ko Ngāti Raukawa, ko Ngāti Maniapoto, e mihi nei kia koutou, a tēnā rā koutou katoa. Nōku te hōnore ki te tuku ameki ki te whakapuaki, i te kupu tuku, i te tohu o te mūrau o te tuhi, ki tēnei tohunga, ki tēnei kauwaka o ngā kōrero a ngā mātua tūpuna. Nāna nei te pukapuka, te rautakitahi o tūhoi ki o rākau. He motu he ngā marika tēnei pukapuka, ina hoki ko tāu e pānui ana, ko ngā kupu tuku iho, a ngā tūpuna ake o te kaituhi, i rongo rā i ngā kōrero, a etahi o te rautakitahi, a tūhoi, i haere rā ki te tīnei i te ahi ki tawhiti. Ko ia te pakanga rongonui o rākau. Hirihiri ana hine ngaro i a tāpau tēmara, e taki ana i ngā kōrero tuku iho. Me te aha, he mea kōrero ki te reo tūhoi, koinei te reo i tupu ai ia. Tui ana ia o nā ke whakaaro, puta noi te pukapuka, ki anoho mai ko te tei pukapuka kounga nei, mā te hunga e pīkoko ana ki te reo, me te kai hitori a kāinga e kai ngākau ana i ngā kōrero o ngā riri whenua o Aotearoa.
Ia i tēnei pānui. This book is truly unique in that what you read are the narratives which have been handed down to the author through his grandparents, who heard the accounts from that very brave band of Te Uriwera and Ngā Tuihui, who travelled to extinguish the fires from afar at the famous Battle of Ōrākau. Tā Pau Te Mara enriches us with not only their stories but also a retelling of their narratives in the language of Tūhoi, the language he grew up in. He weaves his own thoughts throughout the book, which makes it a valuable read for both lovers of te reo Māori and at-home historians interested in the New Zealand land wars.
A kei te rua anuku, a e tāpou, tēnā koa, haere mai.
The winner of Te Muro o Te Tuhi, a discretionary award for a book written entirely and originally in te reo Māori this year. Would you like to announce it, Parawani?
A tāpou te mara, me tana puka te rau takitahi o Tūhoi. Kia ora kau. Tēnā kia pakipaki o tātou ringari.
E mihi ana ki ngā kai whakahaere. E mihi ana hoki ki te reo o te hunga kāinga e whakatau nei i mātau i te hunga kua e ke mai ki runga ki a koutou i te pōnei. Ka nui te ko o te ngākau ki tēnei tohu whakamana kaua iau engari whakamana i te reo Māori. Nō reira e mihi ana ki ngā kai whakahaere. I'm very pleased to receive the award, not for myself, but for the Māori language. I am merely the hand that held the pen which gives life to the Māori language. Tēnā koutou katoa.
Tēnā koe tāpou. It is time now to move on to our 4 category awards for 2024. So for each of these, we're going to invite our finalists to read from their shortlisted books. Following that, the judge convener for the category will come to the stage to announce the winner, and I will read the citation. So writers, if your name is announced as winner, please return to the stage at the end with your publisher. The General Non-Fiction Award is given each year to a book of outstanding literary merit that makes an impact on and delivers knowledge and insight of our cultural landscape through storytelling, history, biography, memoir, personal essay and more. This year's winner will receive a prize of $12,000. So please welcome the 2024 finalists to the stage as I announce them one by one. First of all, Damon Salesa for Indigenous Ocean Pacific Essays from Bridget Williams Books. Barbara Else for Laughing at the Dark, a memoir, published by Penguin Random House. Jeff Evans for ngā Tokimata Whaurua, the biography of a waka, published by Massey University Press, and Eme Wehi Peihana for There's a Cure for This, a memoir, published by Penguin Random House. Whai turu koutou ka pai. Damon, when you're ready.
Tēnā koutou, a whiu mai. I framed this book around the concept of an Indigenous ocean. This idea draws together a range of threads from across the essays. I use the phrase to name and claim an expansive Pacific, but in a way that recognises that the Indigenous presence across the ocean is both different from and exceeds the various schemes and nomenclatures that have been laid across the waters by outsiders. In particular, I use the idea to centre and aggregate many diverse, overlapping Indigenous entities into a concept that captures their scale, while recognising and allowing diversity and specificity. Stories and the will to narrate are foundational to collective human experience. Place needs naming and narration, and these stories call it into being. As I discuss in Chapter 1, place is woven together out of ongoing stories. Place is effectively a collection, an anthology, or an intersection of stories. The Indigenous ocean is itself a vast compendium of these stories, a compendium that reflects that it is drawn from the ocean of more than 1,000 languages. Over 1,400 languages are spoken in the Pacific, a quarter of the world's languages belonging to a fewer than 0.2% of the world's speakers. Place is already complex and becomes even more so in the context of these many Indigenous languages, traditions and stories. Place is established not just through practice but through naming, storytelling, genealogies, through the culturing of people's encounter with each other and with the world. This speaks to why stories and histories, analysis and critique of the Pacific and Indigenous narratives in particular are so powerful. It is essential to wrestle with the stories and representations we receive, to remember and reconstitute others, and to create narratives anew.
It was difficult to find a piece that would offend no group or individual. Sun is streaming over Wellington Harbour. Right at the top of the Highbury Hill, Mum has left the vacuum cleaner on the veranda. I pick up one end of the metal pipe, which is longer than 3-year-old me, so it stays on a slant. There are tiny people sitting on it, mother and father near where I'm holding. Then dozens of children, uncles, aunts, and countless cousins, each smaller and smaller till they're only dots at the far end. One of the children is Susan. I choose her to become my imaginary friend. Now she's my friend, she's bigger and reaches my shoulder. She comes with me almost everywhere. At play centre, I push Susan on the swing, but a boy doesn't see her and sits on my friend. But, of course, nobody except me sees Susan, which I do and don't really understand, but I believe in her. Susan is my friend, mine. She is useful. I blame her for all sorts of things that maybe I have done, but if nobody except me can see her, who can be sure? One Saturday, we visit the zoo. Dad stays home to paint part of the house. We arrive back and see the ladder has slipped and broken a window. With a mischievous grin, he says, "Susan did it." It's no use saying Susan came to the zoo because Dad got in first. I say nothing, but my throat is crammed with the unfairness. At 4 years old now, I don't know the word for something taken unjustly, but my friend has been appropriated. If it happened once, it will happen again. In my room, I help Susan pack her tiny suitcase, Then she and I go to the veranda. She carries the case down the wooden steps, around each turn of the zigzag path to the gate. Goodbye. I see her resigned little shoulders. She doesn't look back. Thank you.
Good evening. For anyone unfamiliar with the subject of my book, it's the large wakatawa, the large war canoe that's housed at the treaty grounds at Waitangi. We joined the story in 1987 on the morning of an epic 65-kilometre paddle from Waitangi to Whangaroa. The alarm echoed off the wooden walls of the whare and out to the marquee at 3:30 a.m, and any crew who had managed to fall asleep amid the excitement and anticipation was soon woken from their slumber. Within minutes, the kaihoi and their kaumātua had begun to ready themselves for the day ahead, and by 5 a.m, they had assembled down at the foreshore to take part in the pre-voyage rituals. Surrounded by family and well-wishers, the kaihoi listened to speeches and karakia, while the bright lights of a Japanese film crew, one of a handful to capture footage of the voyage, illuminated a corner of the scene. Once the formalities had concluded, pairs of kaihoi, barefoot and wearing black shorts, walked into the shallows, climbed onto the waka and made their way to their allotted positions. At 5:20 a.m, a little over 2 hours after high tide, Heck Busby, carrying his taiaha and adorned in a feather cloak, issued the command, and 80 hoi were plunged into the still waters. The waka inched forward, the grip of the dark seawater below stretched but not yet broken. Another stroke followed in quick time, and then another and another. Only then did the ocean begin to loosen its hold. By the time the count had reached a dozen, the waka was moving freely. Spectators, huddled in groups against the cold, watched on in near silence as a karanga followed the waka out onto the tide. Karen Williams, one of many wives there to farewell their husbands, remembered it as a particularly tough time. The emotion was huge, just watching them go. I don't think there was one of us standing on that beach who didn't have a tear in their eye, and they were tears of fear. It was the not knowing, really. Were they going to make it? We were all very anxious. In a matter of seconds, the huge waka had melted into the darkness. The kaihotu's call, the only indication that Ngā Toki Mata Whaurua was still in the bay.
I could have chosen lots of different pieces of writing to share, anecdotes that speak to motherhood, loss, shitty fathers, drunk days in Otago. But I arrived here tonight having worked my 18th day in a row with only one day off, and about to go on to the skeleton staff at my hospital, Middlemore, for 48 hours while my colleagues strike for better pay and conditions, while listening on the radio that savings will be found in our broken health system without affecting the front line. And the beautiful thing about having two careers is that the front line can talk back. I haven't even said anything. I've always loved apocalypse fiction, and my favourite phase has always been the fall. I can never be bothered with the rebuilding civilization bit. It's imagining the immediate aftermath that it's always been the most interesting. I guess some people want to break things just to see what the pieces look like. I will be careful what I wish for in future, having inadvertently completed medical training, just in time to see what happens when a country's health system tries to break. One of the saddest things about entering the medical profession during the COVID-19 pandemic has been seeing my colleagues bleeding for a flawed system. The newest doctors in the hospital don't know another normal, and we've been struggling not to exsanguinate, wondering if it'll always be like this. Black humour combined with a robust constitution has been protective for as long as healing has been called medicine. But the fissures inside the system are too often burrowing their way inside the people working here, into their mental and physical health, their relationships, and worst of all, their hope for the future. Sometimes being in this job feels like you're having an out-of-body experience. I remember sitting in a teaching session on facelifts, the plastic surgeon showing us photos of women's faces ageing. As the oldest junior in the room, I could feel my face sliding off its scaffolding in real time. When patients come in with bowel obstructions caused by adhesions, I fancies that the scars from my previous abdominal operations are twisting in my body in response. The contrasts are obscene. You can be in the most unimaginably awful situation and get the urge to giggle like a kid at a funeral, just to release the tension. You hover above yourself and wonder how the fuck you ended up here. But while you're looking into the void is looking back, and medicine changes you. Aided by the numbness of moral injury or compassion fatigue or burnout or whatever you want to call having more work than hours in a day, you gain enough distance to watch yourself change. You're conditioned by the environment, the work and the pressure into becoming something different from what you were before. The worst days seem worse than anything a human being who is essentially just doing a job should be asked to endure. Telling your favourite patient they have cancer, apologising to whānau because you've reached the limit of what you can do for their mum, keeping your shit together while someone says they're trying their best, they want to be well, but they've experienced so much trauma in their life they can't stop smoking this week, even if it delays their operation. But the best days exceed everything we hoped for, with our naive aspirations to become doctors and the airless claustrophobia of medical school. On the bright, good days, there's a chosen family of beautiful, brilliant people you can't believe accept you as one of them, and patients you feel confident you've done everything in your power to help. People at their worst to whom you give your best, your hours that you should be in bed, your evaporating time with your family. Somehow it makes sense and has meaning. Kia ora.
Please join me once again in congratulating our general non-fiction shortlisted finalists for 2024. Now, to announce the winner, please welcome convener of the general non-fiction judges, Jim Tully, and to present the award, the CEO of our incredible naming sponsor, Ockham Residential, Will Deal.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa, and tolo whalava. The diversity of entries in this broad category presents significant challenges for judges. General non-fiction embraces scholarly works, biographies and memoirs, essays, and journalism addressing diverse subjects. The 59 entries this year treated us to a wide array of narratives, rich life stories, biographies of birds, sea life and waka, deep investigations into kaupapa from communes to ora, social histories, analyses of contemporary social and political issues, and international relations. We were guided by clear criteria: literary merit, accessibility to a general audience, production factors, and the impact of the book on the community. We were impressed by the 14 books that made the long list. The 4 on the short list were, in our view, outstanding. As convener, I must thank Kerry Sunderland and Rebecca Kiddle for the joy of being a joy to work with. Our discussions were always harmonious and collegial, our decisions unanimous. And so to our unanimous decision. I'm delighted to announce that the winner of the General Non-Fiction Award is Damon Salesa for An Indigenous Ocean Pacific Essays.
The judges wrote this: in An Indigenous Ocean, Toi Ole Sulu Sulu Damon Salesa weaves together academic rigour, captivating stories and engaging prose to reframe our understanding of New Zealand's colonial history in the South Pacific. This scholarly but highly accessible collection of essays carves out space for Indigenous voices to tell their own narratives. Grounded in a deep understanding of Pacific history and cultures, Salesa addresses the contemporary social, political, economic, regional and international issues faced by Pacific nations. This seminal work asserts the Pacific's ongoing impact worldwide, despite marginalisation by New Zealand and others, and will remain its relevance for generations. Congratulations.
whio mai tala mai au mahalole so fua malangia mama. Can I thank first of all the judges for reading our books so carefully, and thank our sponsors and all those who make these awards possible, and acknowledge the finalists Jeff, Emma and Elspeth. We're so grateful for reading. My favourite writer once wrote to Barbara, my favourite writer once wrote to me and said, writing is like dropping a stone down a well and hoping to hear a sound. And we don't write for prizes, we write to share our stories, and so I wanted to acknowledge all the many authors who've written tonight. I just really want to thank, first of all, those who shared their stories with me, living and dead. Through our archives, our ancestors speak. Our ancestors who live have been graceful enough to share their stories. I wanted to thank my family who are here, especially my mum, my wife, Jenny, my 2 daughters, and all those who enable me to write across the institutions who have been kind to me, the University of Michigan, Waipapa and Mataro, and especially Auckland University of Technology, AUT, Jackie and Amy. Appreciate how you gave me air cover to write as a Vice-Chancellor, which is truly a luxury. Thank John Puhiatau Pule, whose image graced my cover, and I think we have to be honest and say people do judge books by their cover. And it's an authentic representation of what it means to tell a different story. Through our stories, we change the world. All of us, when we read, we connect with each other, and we are the living faces of our ancestors, so we must keep their stories with us. Kia ora. Ngā mihi.
Congratulations, Damon. Thank you to Jim and Will. We now come to the celebration of our poets. As with last year, the 2024 shortlist is dominated by new voices, proving New Zealand poetry is continuing to grow and develop in exciting new directions. Tonight's winner of the Mary and Peter Biggs Award for Poetry will receive a prize of $12,000. So, please welcome to the stage our 2024 poetry finalists. They are Megan Kitching for At the Point of Seeing, published by Otago University Press. Grace Yi for Chinese Fish, published by Giramondo Publishing. Just so you know, sadly Grace has had to cancel her trip to Auckland at the last minute due to illness. However, being very technically capable, she has made a recording for us that we will share with you very shortly. Our next shortlisted finalist, Bill Nelson for Root, Leaf, Flower, Fruit, published by Te Herenga Waka University Press. And Isla Huia for Talia, published by Dead Bird Books. Megan, I'll ask you to kick things off.
One poem for you all, A Bee Against a Window. A bee against a window crawls, sidles, then drops, dogged, like a swimmer under a waterfall, pummeled by the pipe organ drone of its own labours. The glass, viscous as summer air, ripples with grains of light. Flowers stain those waves, and the bee quivers, tasting, not quite yet, their sweet sonar, shoulders steadily on. The blunt head nudging for a change of pressure, a crack where its song will mute, a swallowed echo, and rush through into streams beyond. The bee knows no sides, only sunwards, until it tires, rests in the hammock of a corner. It cannot lie like glass, or twist colours like distance, or sly through that other open window, but climbs steadily on. One instant lofted free, and the bee will forget with what patience it now gnaws towards a day upon the rim of summer. Between is this wing, this waxen slice of sky, this slipping wall the bee scales forever. Thank you.
Oh, Bill, just hold on just a moment. We'll just hear from Grace's recording.
For the good husband. The most extraordinary thing about the Chinese woman is that she curls her hair and dances. They have not been out further than the shops at the end of the street on the back of his Honda 250cc. He did invite her swimming in their para pool once. Just the two of them it would have been, but her mother forbade it. No, she said. Stay inside, 'tain't too dark. Pinch bruising her arm and dragging her off to another pink carnation Chinese wedding, where she danced all night with a fumbling Pākehā boy who tore her brand new silken pantyhose in the coat room. It smelled of opium and Ajax, while the band played the chicken dance. Prompted by the interviewer, she stated that even if her parents did not approve, she would certainly consider marriage to a Pākehā man if she were in love with him. What is the point of this anecdote? Is this a story about assimilation or, God forbid, miscegenation? This Cherry character doesn't seem very Chinese. Could you put her in a chung sam? Or have her wipe a few grains of rice from her mouth? Or explore the Pākehā boy's point of view, perhaps? How does he feel kissing this exotic Chinese girl? Does she taste like soy sauce? I have never worn a chung sam. He tasted like cheddar cheese.
I was pretty keen to get up here. This is a book about not trying to go back to who you were and accepting that who you are is what you do next. It's not a book about politics, but I hope people in positions of power understand that message too. You know, who you are is what you decide to do next. Still the taste of mud, clay, soil, half-decayed leaves, pine needles, earth, gritty, metallic. Even after washing my mouth, soda water, toothpaste, foaming, frothing, I can still taste it everywhere, rammed into the mouth and ears, nostrils, hair, beneath the fingernails, corking the throat. Like the trees, the roots, the mud, sending a message, designed to look like an accident, but no memory of what happened. I might as well be someone else, no message. Then again, there was foreboding. The afternoon before, a storm rolling in, Latika on the phone. I'll be home late. It sounds horrible out there, she says, her concern reinforced by the rain and darkness already wetting the windows. And I remember reassuring, placating, and also worried myself, considering briefly to let my friend down, go home. And then she's gone, or at least the memory of her is gone. And it could have almost happened that way. And now I don't know anything for sure. The world is different, but I can't say in what way. Like someone moved all the furniture, and now I'm tiptoeing around, expecting to crack my shins on a coffee table. But I'm here, drifting in, waking up, in hospital, more than once. Mud everywhere, torn clothes, injuries. Where am I? Waking up, mud. What happened? She's there, definitely there, answering politely over and over, how long have I been here? And then, I bet it was spectacular.
This one's called Motu o Apa. Our house is white, or at least I have fetishized it to be. The kids have the run of the basement, but the mamas and the papas are on the linoleum up there, a balcony for maintenance of one eye on the tamarikis. Uncle on the lawn is crying until he doesn't look like a police officer anymore. We all soften here, as is the way of this town, mute lights in the net curtains, shuttlecocks in the sky, the grave outback. I still don't know who died on my hill, even as we move upwards, deep through the black green to some sort of clearing that cleans me with candlewick and with weta. If I won Powerball last Saturday, I'd have bought that whole marina in cash, paid out the Turangi boy with the fake guns slanted at our tyres, and salt and super volcanic kisses. All good lake girls know the taniwha will only get you if you don't suppose he's real. But Motu o Apa is yet to wince. Loading us into her belly is just muscle memory, a horizon reopening, a caesarean to put the babies back in. Kia ora.
Please join me again in congratulating our shortlisted finalists for the Mary and Peter Biggs Award for Poetry 2024. And let us welcome to the stage the convener of judges for poetry, Eric Kennedy, and to present the award he's accompanied by our generous sponsors, Mary and Peter Biggs.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Warm greetings to poets and poetry lovers, to the audience in this theatre and online. The judges in the poetry category, Dougal McNeil, True Paraha, and I, had a daunting and exciting task: to take a list of 42 books of poems and make it into a list of 10 books, then 4 books, and then just 1 book. It was a disappearing act full of challenges, as we had to say goodbye to books we liked, and then goodbye to books we loved. We got there in the end through a rigorous and lively consultation process. We want to thank all the poets who imagine and create, the publishers who back them, the funding bodies that make life a little more comfortable, and the readers who all this work is for. Readers of the poetry published in Aotearoa in 2023 were lucky. The poetry of New Zealand produced work that dazzled and work that mattered. Work that wrestled with planetary crises, local imbroglios, and universal predicaments. With history, with the future, and with what it means to be fully alive in our moment. I am pleased to announce that the winner of the Mary and Peter Biggs Award for Poetry is Grace Yi for Chinese Fish.
We know Grace will be watching via the live stream, so our congratulations to her. She's asked that Paula Morris receive the award on her behalf this evening. This is what the judges wrote about Grace's collection. Grace Yi's is a striking aesthetic. It blurs genres. It dances around the page. It crosses languages by fusing Cantonese, Taishanese, and English, both official and unofficial. Her craft is remarkable. She moves between old newspaper cuttings, advertisements, letters, recipes, cultural theory and dialogue, creating a new archival poetics for the Chinese trans-Tasman diaspora. The sequence narrates a Hong Kong family's assimilation into New Zealand life from the 1960s to the 1980s, interrogating ideas of citizenship and national identity. It displaces the reader, evoking the unsettledness of migration. In Chinese Fish, Grace Yi cooks up a rich variety of poetic material into a book that is special and strange. This is poetry at its urgent and thrilling best.
Kia ora everyone. Grace asked me to read her speech, but I don't think I should be trusted with her prize money. She says, thank you to the judges and to Mary and Peter Biggs for making this award possible. I am thrilled that Chinese Fish has been acknowledged here in the country where I grew up. It is, at its heart, a story about a family that travelled across the seas, arrived in Aotearoa, and had the audacity to call it home. Despite its exotic title, Chinese Fish is very much a New Zealand story. I'd like to congratulate my fellow nominees, Megan Kitching, Ayla Huia and Bill Nelson, whose books are equally deserving of this prize. I am honoured to be a finalist beside you. I'd like to thank Ivor Indick and the brilliant team at Giramondo Publishing for taking a chance on this experimental work. Marion Way Campbell, Fran Martin, Zachary Wong, Ely Finch, Coral Campbell and Helen Guildford for their encouragement and expertise. Chris Teese for wholeheartedly endorsing the book. Alison Wong for urging my publisher to enter the book into these awards. And my very dear friends and family across Aotearoa and Australia, especially those of you who are here or watching tonight, thank you for being my biggest champions. Kia ora.
Congratulations, Grace. We hope this is a balm and maybe you're feeling just a little bit better. The Booksellers Aotearoa New Zealand Award for Illustrated Non-Fiction recognises books that marry incredible writing with outstanding visual content, design and production values, resulting in objects of beauty and of cultural significance. This year's winner will receive a prize of $12,000. So please welcome the 2024 Illustrated Non-Fiction finalists to the stage. Gregory O'Brien for Don Binney Flight Path, published by Auckland University Press. Liv Sisson for Fungi of Aotearoa, a curious forager's field guide, published by Penguin Random House. Lauren Gutzel and Lucy Hammonds for Marilyn Webb, Folded in the Hills, published by Dunedin Public Art Gallery. Unfortunately, Lauren and Lucy's co-author Bridget Rewiti is unable to be with us this evening. And finally, Ryan Bodman for Rugby League in New Zealand, A People's History, published by Bridget Williams Books. Gregory, the honours are yours.
For Don Binney, Birdman, Air Traffic Controller Extraordinaire, with aroha and thanks for the great many flying lessons. 1. Portrait of the artist as a young bird watcher. Birds were flapping and diving deep in Don Binney's conscious and subconscious mind for some years before he struck out as a teenage schoolboy across the Manukau mudflats with his ornithologist tutor from King's College, R.B. Simpson. The Manukau Harbour story, often told by the artist, presented something of an originating myth, accentuated for effect. He even went so far as to claim he was an ornithologist first, a painter second. Like much that Binney said, this pronouncement should be taken with a grain of salt. Numerous exercise books survive from early childhood, all crammed with flying and striding, storks, ostriches, kiwi and weka. These suggest that birds were an entrenched part of his imaginative life from infancy. Strictly speaking, Don Binney was a painter of birds before he became an ornithologist. The young Binney was manifestly captivated by the imaginative potential of flight in the human as well as in the avian realm. In a formal photographic portrait from the early 1940s, no doubt commissioned by a doting mother, he holds a model aeroplane, possibly handed to him in the hope of eliciting a smile or to fill the idle minutes while film was changed or lighting adjusted in the photographer's studio. One of Binney's earliest memories was of aeroplanes flying low over the family home in Parnell, Auckland, during the concluding phase of World War II. Quote, "The sky outside was filled with real aircraft, which, I was assured, were ours." A mixture of wonder and curiosity, augmented by a little anxiety about what passed overhead, would stay with him through life.
Lovely to hear wonder and curiosity mentioned. It's also a big theme of my title, which is inherently very different, but all the same. I'll just start from the very beginning, the introduction. The fungi of Aotearoa are fascinating, freaky, and fantastical. We have a powdery white fungus that hunts bugs, a basket-shaped species that can move around, a lichen named after Jacinda Ardern, and a blue mushroom on our $50 note. We have others that glow in the dark, and a few that can kill you, liquefy your liver, or send you into outer space. And these are just the ones we know about. Like our flora and fauna, the fungi here have evolved in isolation. They feature brilliant hues, alien textures, and unique personalities that often can't be found anywhere else. Each fungus has a story to tell, and this book is a collection of those stories. My first real encounter with fungi happened in 2015 when I was visiting Aotearoa on exchange. While tramping on Rakiota Stewart Island, I was struck by likening. Not lightning, but likening. The weather was terrible. We tramped with hoods up, heads down, and that's when it happened. For the very first time, I noticed the magnificence of lichen. That crusty stuff that grows on every deck, fence post, and footpath. Lichens on Rakiota range from bubblegum pink to lime green. Some are frilly, others are crumbly. They dangle from branches, cover boulders like splashes of paint, and no two are the same. Each is its own planet of whirling colors and strange topographies. During the 3 days I spent in the Rakiota bush, I became enchanted by the lichens I saw. Their odd textures, the way they clung to nearly everything, and their tiny hairs, visible only if you zoom in as far as your eyeballs will allow. I filled my phone to the brim with photos of it all. Naturalist Trevor Goward coined the phrase likening rod effect to describe this kind of moment. By this, he means that lichen have a habit of shattering familiar concepts to make way for supercharged understanding and enthusiasm. I thought I knew what the Nahere contained, flora and fauna, but lichen showed me I'd only scratched the surface. They opened my eyes to the third F, fungi. Kia ora.
Nei a mao te wharitoi o Otipoti mihi kau ana ki te mana whenua o tēnei rohi tēnā koutou. My reading this evening takes us straight into a political issue that remains relevant still, which is a nuclear-free Aotearoa. I'll read first in Te Reo Māori and following in Pākehā, as is our book, which is bilingual. Ko te whiore o te kāhuru tau kotahi mano iwarau whitu te kau, me te ihu o te kāhuru tau kotahi mano iwarau waru te kau, he wā whakahirehira ki te mautohi tō rakapū ki Aotearoa. Ko te hono māria o web ki te whenua, ki te taiao, te take, he uru pare ra roto āna porotehe ki ka whakarairai taiao, ki te whakaparahako o te whenua hoki. Kāore ia I kite I te wehika I waika I tāna mahi katoe me ona whakapono ake, I kōrero ia ki tētehi uiui ki te hōtaka toi o te pauaka whakata o Aotearoa ko Kaleidoscope. Kāore te mahi toi me te ao tōrakapu e weherua. Marilyn Webb's Pacific Countdown series captures this deep entwinement of the personal and political. Her series began as a response to French nuclear testing programs in the South Pacific, an issue that galvanised a generation in Aotearoa. Webb recalled, I was sitting around in Ponsonby having a barbecue with dear friends of mine when the first Mururo test went off and the sky went pink. I was quite devastated, really. In fact, I don't think I'll ever forget that. Webb's colour palette in her Pacific Countdown series shifted then to visible reds and pinks, portraying the bleeding and battered landscape. The tempo is marked by the ticking down of a doomsday clock, counting down to the moment of destruction. Pacific Countdown also includes Webb's only self-portrait, rendered in that same unnerving pink she saw in the Tāmaki Makaurau skyline. In the work, she assumes the position that the whenua typically holds within her compositions, as a strong and unyielding female force holding her ground.
Just going to read the opening section to the final chapter of my book about rugby league. In the final decade of the 20th century, rugby league was at the vanguard of massive changes to New Zealand society. As neoliberal reforms opened up a previously restrictive economic environment, the logic of the market was applied to more and more of the fabric of our daily lives. Rugby league led the way in the commercialisation and professionalisation of sport, and the New Zealand game was overwhelmed by corporate influence in the process. But all other major codes followed suit, as New Zealand's sporting bodies were forced to legitimise their existence in primarily financial terms. When rugby league was reduced to its dollar value during the 1990s, the suits took what they could to turn a profit. However, as this book shows, the sport in this country has always contained a spirit that cannot be reduced to the logic of the market. When the upper ranks of the domestic game were being transformed in the 1990s, Casey King was getting his first taste of grassroots rugby league in Auckland. King had played rugby union all his life, including a semi-professional stint in England. But he returned home in the early 1990s following a death in the family. At this time, King was looking to take a break from rugby and decided to give league a go. This is his quote. I didn't know anyone in rugby league, but I'd heard of the Mad Butcher, King explained in 2016. I thought, well, where's his club? Mangere East. I'll go there. Before I went to the club, I told a friend of mine what I was doing, and he gave me 2 words of advice. The first thing he said is play an open age restricted weight, because rugby league is tough and I was lean. The other word of advice he says is if you do this, you won't go back to rugby union. I laughed at him and I said, right, we'll see. I went off to Mangere East, signed up, started playing, and it was an instant love of the sport. My earliest memory was the training. I'd never trained so hard. I thought we trained hard in rugby, but this was different. This was a different sort of training where you run off to the sideline and you vomit. It was hard, it was physical stuff, almost like training for a fight. And the camaraderie off the field, it was different. Again, coming from rugby, which I loved and I had some really good friends in. But this was different. It's hard to explain, but automatically you're part of someone's family. You're part of this wider family. It didn't matter what walk of life you came from, you were accepted.
Join me again, please, in congratulating our shortlisted finalists for Best Illustrated Non-Fiction. To announce the winner of this evening's award, please welcome convener of the Illustrated Non-Fiction Judges, Lynn Freeman, and to present the award, Chair of Booksellers Aotearoa New Zealand, Penny Whitty.
My My co-judges, my fabulous co-judges, Marianne Hargreaves, Ane Tonga and I all remember feeling both overwhelmed when these big heavy boxes of beautiful books started arriving, but also a sense of intense anticipation. Opening each box was exhilarating. What we find among the 27 entries from 20 publishers and one that was self-published? Well, so many books about art that are works of art in their own right. Māori and Pacifica stories of empowerment and ambition. Tales of the land, the whenua, and the impact of and for the people who encounter it. Our social history told through recreation, sport, and photography, land and sky, plants and manu, subjects that continue to tell our stories through writing and art and help to define Aotearoa. And amongst all this, we found ourselves entranced by books we honestly did not expect to be. We congratulate all the writers, their designers, publishers, editors, printers, publishing a book where the words and the images must be equally compelling and beautifully designed is not for the faint of heart. With that in mind, I am excited and relieved finally to be able to announce that the winner of the Booksellers Aotearoa New Zealand Award for Illustrated Non-Fiction is Gregory O'Brien for Don Binney Flight Path.
The judges wrote, even as an experienced biographer, Gregory O'Brien has achieved a near impossible task in Don Binney Flight Path. He has encapsulated the artist's full life, honestly portraying his often contrary personality and carefully interrogating a formidably large body of work and its place in Aotearoa New Zealand's art history. O'Brien's respect for Binney includes acknowledging that he could be both charming and curmudgeonly. Sounds familiar. And as a result, he offers a complete picture of this complex and creative man. Equally compelling are the book's faithfully reproduced artworks, exemplifying the best in design, layout and reproduction. From the cover onwards, the images of the paintings take us to the place where Binney observed the land and the birds, capturing the qualities of whenua that meant so much to him. Well done.
Tēnā koutou katoa. It was a very weighty book. I couldn't carry it on my own. I had some fantastic people with me. Don died in 2012. A couple of years later, Barbara Speedy, his gallerist, approached me and we started talking. I think it was 2016. I picked up the book. Auckland University Press came on board and I acknowledged Sam Elworthy and Lauren and the whole team there. It went on for a number of years. I came to love him, I came to be frustrated with him, I came to know him. I think he was a very large presence in our house. He could be very engaging, he could be very funny, he could also be somewhat overwhelming. He took up a lot of oxygen, so I do have to thank Jenny and my three sons, Felix, Carlo and Jack Marcel. Keely O'Shaughnessy, the book designer, came in and designed, as you would have seen from the pages before, I think a book to die for. It still takes my breath away. It's an incredible production. And here we are tonight. I think if Don was here, I'd hug him and say thank you. You know, we got this far with it. And I found myself sitting here before in such company with the other finalists too, so I really would like to honour them and say this honour is for them too. We're all in the same big pond. We're all working together and we're all hopefully making some progress. Other people that helped, Jane Parkin, the copy editor, it was a magnificent team. So thanks to everyone, including all the people I've forgotten. The Binney family, Don's widow Philippa and daughter Mary, took it on too, and I think it's been pretty tough for them. But I do think in Don's life, they were the people that sustained him for, well over 30 years, the second half of his life. And then they entrusted me, I guess, to carry on and sort of bring it to a kind of fruition. So I think this is definitely a moment in the ongoing life of Don Binney. So thank you, Don. Thanks, everyone.
Congratulations, Gregory. Thanks, Lynn and Penny. The final award of the 2024 Ockhams is in memory of an extraordinarily generous benefactor who wanted to create an award specifically celebrating our novelists and short story writers. The Jan Medlicott Acorn Prize for Fiction now stands at $65,000. It's the country's richest fiction writing prize. This year's shortlist features 4 very different novels that examine our world in historical, contemporary and speculative contexts, with each already provoking significant conversations, as good books should do. Our 2024 finalists, each of whom has previously won the Fiction Prize at the New Zealand Book Awards, are Stephen Daisley for A Better Place, published by Text Publishing. Now, so you know, Stephen's health has unfortunately prevented him from travelling to New Zealand for this evening, so reading on his behalf this evening is veteran Lieutenant Colonel Christopher Mullane, ONZM MBE. Kia ora. Next up, Pip Adam for Audition, published by Te Herenga Waka University Press. Eleanor Catton for Burnham Wood, also published by Te Herenga Waka University Press. Eleanor is also unable to make it to New Zealand this evening. However, she's also very technically capable, and we will enjoy her recorded reading on the big screen after Pip in a few minutes. And finally, last but not least, our final shortlisted finalist, Emily Perkins for Lioness, published by Bloomsbury Publishing. Lieutenant Colonel, we might ask you to kick us off with a reading.
Put it around the right way would be good, wouldn't it? So I think we should start by a brief introduction. These medals here represent my uncle who lies in Egypt, where he died during the Second World War. And this book is very much about New Zealanders in the Second World War. It's 2 twin brothers, in fact. And I found when I communicated very briefly with Stephen that we also had a connection through these other medals here, which are my own, amongst which my Vietnam service is recognised. So here we are. It's not what Stephen chose me to read, by the way. And I know he's where he can't complain about this. It's when he came back, he wanted me to read the opening chapter, but in fact I am reading one of the last. Another 1,200 acres had been added to the original allocation. This is what his father had been given when he came back from the First World War, a different man. Tony, that's his twin brother, Roy's twin brother, had said once that it was the best land anyway because nobody else wanted it. They all looked at him when he said that. Tony had always been a fool about this shit. Rising steadily up into the bush and disappearing over the old ridges towards the mountain in the east, Ruapehu. Directly behind him to the west, the silver ribs of Taranaki. Tony told him the old story of how they had quarrelled, separated. The river, Te Awa Wanganui, was not the path, but that which always lay between them. 2 long white lines from the slipstream of an aircraft appeared above Ruapehu. 145 American B-17s dropped their bombs on Monte Cassino, and almost everyone cheered as the ancient Benedictine monastery blew up. David Brooks did not. David Brooks was a close friend of his brother, Tony. And Tony was dead on Crete by then, and Sister, as David Brooks was known, was still weeping for him when he was alone. On the valley road, he adjusted the pack further up his back by leaning forward at the waist and shrugging it higher. He had done this countless times, from Greece to Crete, North Africa, through Sicily and up to Cassino, where he was knocked. Every infantry soldier knew that leaning forwards and shrugging the pack higher onto their back seemed for a while to make it easier to keep walking. The pack and those old ammunition pouches settling onto his back. He had always carried extra grenades, spare magazines for the Bren, tobacco and coffee, 4 British canteens. Since they landed in Italy, brandy or grappa in one, water in the other 3. The bush-covered hills rising up before him. Hold my hand and see what I am seeing, Tony. But that was a stupid thing to think. Tony was dead.
I'm restless, Drew says. We can feel it, Alba says. Anyone, anywhere in the ship audition can feel it. It happens. I will tell the story of it. We aren't silent. Our bodies get restless, like there is a buzzing inside our muscles, or maybe just our legs or an arm, and we will try and move, but a little bit at first, then sometimes roughly, then sometimes we will rock back and forward, and the ship will shift slightly in the air. We were taught to go a long way away, Stanley says, but there is no advised destination. We were adventurers setting out. Like Cook, Drew says, a teacher said it in the classroom, it didn't go down well. Cook's a cunt, says Stanley. Nobody wants to be compared to Cook. One of us, right at the back of the room, were like, where the like Cook comment was made, let out an audible, ugh, and a few of us giggled. We were bigger. Nothing we said was quiet. Even when we spoke under our breath to ourselves, it came out audible. Nothing we did was private. We were big and strong. We were as strong as we thought we were, Alba says. The story is, we are not as strong as we think we are. Like Cook, Drew says. Don't bother, Alba says, we're all tired. Hang on, says Alba. This is one from before the classroom. This is a story from the before the classroom, but is the right time. It is the right shape. We live in a time of war, says Alba. Genocide, says Drew. What, says Alba? When you kill children, I don't think it's war anymore, says Alba. Land back, says Alba. I think you'll find they prefer landlord, said Stanley. Warm food, says Alba. Landlord, says Stanley. Gentle, says Alba. Tough, says Stanley. 800 more beds, 600 more beds, 200 more beds. Toi tu te tiriti, says Alba. Toi tu te tiriti.
The reasons that horticulture held such strong appeal for Mira was that it offered her a respite from this habit of relentless interior critique. When she made things grow, she experienced a kind of manifest forgiveness, an abiding moving on and making new that she found impossible in almost every other sphere of life. Even in her failures and mistakes, as when she learned that onion seeds don't tend to keep, or that low soil temperatures result in carrots that are pale, or that fennel inhibits growth in other plants and should be propagated only on its own. She never felt chastised, for truth in a garden did not take the form of rectitude, and right was not the opposite of wrong. To learn even something as simple as to water the roots of a plant rather than its leaves was not to be dealt the harsh reality of cold, hard fact, but rather to be let into a secret. In a garden, expertise was personal and anecdotal. It was allegorical. It was ancient. It had been handed down. One felt that gardeners across the generations were united in a kind of guild, and that every counsel had the quality of wisdom, gentle, patient, and holistic, and yet unwavering, for there was no quarrelling with the laws and tendencies of nature, no room for judgment, no dispute. The proof lay only in the plants themselves, and in the soil, and in the air, and in the harvest.
You just need to know that the people in this section, there's a woman telling her friend about how she has tried to swap places with her husband in their relationship and the things they do together. Once they swapped roles, she told me, their sex life heated up. And when she drove them up the coast for weekend walks, she felt elated behind the wheel, surging to overtake trucks as though the only thing she'd ever feared about driving was her own power. She saw how Alex, her daughter, enjoyed the new closeness with Mick, the husband. It was a relief not to be the one trying to steer her daughter's choices without revealing a hidden agenda and generating the opposite effect. She adored Mick's calmness, the baseline assumption of a person with practical skills that things would be all right. On the downside, there were the bills and the rubbish and the car and the maintenance. And he still called her 5 times from the supermarket to check he was getting the right thing. I mean, was I that controlling, she said? Rhetorical. They were trying, and yet. She struggled to achieve a similar deprogramming at work. It was hard enough to go cold turkey on exclamation marks, all good if not, and non-essential apologies. Her job was to get money for various causes out of high net worth individuals. Supplication was an ingrained mode, not easily unlearned. The sight of her emails without the usual emollients made her feel faint. And then she said there was age. It was as if no one else was getting older, Claire told me, only her. No one else was swept up in the river of time. She alone lay awake in the middle of the night as electric currents rippled her limbs, her heart snagging for no reason, thinking about why she had been a follower all her life, thinking that all this wide-eyed wonder at the world had been supposed to keep her young, but here she was, aging anyway. She swam length after length at the local pool, striving to just be a body to still her mind, to let the little word strings go, but words were everywhere and no good. Her sister had another take. Well, she told me I wasn't depressed, I was angry. Were you? She was depressed and angry. It was pointless. No, it wasn't. Life was elating, joyous. She was in love with the crystal droplets on the morning twigs before the wind came to shatter them. She loved the glossy birds, the red maple, the bowl of harbour, her imperturbable husband, their mysterious daughter who was in the ascendant, who had not yet met time. Mick had gone bald, so that was his price paid. But the rubbish that blew through the streets, and the way that it was all wrong everywhere. How did people not go mad, she asked me now. Why did they not care? Why didn't they all just storm something? Perhaps this was menopause, but everyone she knew was only in perimenopause. Peri, peri, we said to each other, clinging to those letters as though they were a strand of pearls. Sexual relevance, those last 4 precious pearls. Menopause is one of those catch-all diagnoses, she said, like when you have a baby and you blame everything on teething because nothing else could be making you cry. Thank you.
Please join me once again in congratulating the shortlisted finalists for the Jan Medlicott Acorn Prize for Fiction. To announce the winner, please welcome to the stage the convener of the Fiction Judges for 2024, Juliette Blythe, and to present the prize, she's joined by the CEO of the Acorn Foundation, which administers Jan Medlicott's incredible legacy in the country's premier literary prize, Laurie Luke.
Ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. Reading our way through the 43 submissions for the 2024 Jan Medlicott Acorn Prize for Fiction has been a privilege, responsibility, mostly a joy. We existed in a dreamlike state for the months it took us to read our way backwards and forwards through the literature of Aotearoa in 2023. We thank Natalie Haynes, our international judge, who gave generously of her time and her insights. And a mihi to my fellow judges, Kieran Dass and Anthony Lapwood, for their thoughtfulness, humour, intellect and open hearts. Our reading experiences reinforced what we already knew, that richness abounds in the literature of our shores, and we were so proud to undertake this task. Proud too of our shortlist, our final four, the Fab Four, the Awesome Foursome. In a year stacked with writing royalty, we knew we had some tough decisions ahead. And thank you, writers, for making it so hard for us. We thank Stephen, Pip, Eleanor and Emily for a cast of unforgettable characters. Twin brothers Roy and Tony Mitchell, Drew, Stanley and Alba, Mira Bunting and Robert Lemoyne, Therese and Trevor Thorne and Claire, now forever part of our stories too. I am so delighted to announce that the winner of the Jan Medlicott Acorn Prize for Fiction is Emily Perkins for Lioness.
The judges wrote a searing and urgent novel crackling with tension and intelligence. Lioness starts with a hiss and ends with a roar as protagonist Therese's dawning awareness and growing rage reveals itself. At first glance, this is a psychological thriller about a privileged, wealthy family and its unravelling. Look closer and it's an incisive exploration of wealth, power, class, female rage and the search for authenticity. Emily Perkins deftly wrangles a large cast of characters in vivid technicolor, giving each their moment in the sun while dexterously weaving together multiple plot lines. Her acute observations and razor-sharp wit decimate the tropes of midlife in moments of pure prose brilliance, leaving the reader gasping for more. Disturbing, deep, smart, and funny as hell, Lioness is unforgettable. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. I'm completely shocked. I'm also incredibly moved by all of the amazing readings we've heard tonight. They just bring the room alive. And, I'm doing this terrible thing. I'm going to plagiarise myself. But I said in a talk I gave for the Arts Foundation recently that, books multiply the world. And that is what they do, and it's just incredible to hear all of the words that are evoked in these books that we've heard from tonight. And also, I really want to shout out to all of the writers and all of the books that have been published in the last year. There are some incredible ones, and I am so grateful to everybody who supports books, to the booksellers, to all the sponsors, to everybody who's come here tonight, to readers. I think all of us writers are readers first and foremost, and that's something that sort of brings us all together. I wrote something down because I knew I'd be speechless. I just want to give my love and solidarity to Lioness's fellow nominees, Audition, an unforgettable masterpiece, Burnham Wood, which is a blazing novel, and A Better Place, which, as you heard tonight, is deeply moving. And it's been helpful for me to remember that it's our books going through this prize process, not us. It's really easy to conflate these things, especially in writing, when we put all of ourselves into our work. I still actually can't believe this is happening, I'm sorry. But it is about the books, and as has been noted already, it was an incredible year for New Zealand fiction. And if I start to list the other fiction books I read this year, I miss something great. But I just hope everyone can go to their local library or booksellers and ask them to recommend a New Zealand book. Fiction is a form of magic. It's necessary magic. It's saved many of us at different times in our lives, and it will again if we let it. To the politicians and the decision makers and anybody who might find themselves in a system of what if, I say read a story, read a novel, read the work of the great Canadian writer Alice Munro, who died today, and remember how vulnerable and layered and loving and connected we all are, and how much we all need each other. Thank you, Emma Herdman and Charlie Gregg at my wonderful publishers Bloomsbury, Alan and Unwin, Mel, thanks for being here, Georgia Garrett and all at Rogers College and White, to the brilliant women of the Glen Road Writers Group, to my family, Carl, Veronica, Cass and Mary, and my dear friends, especially Brita and Robin and Pip, who are here tonight. And thank you again to the judges, to the sponsors, to Jan Medlicott, to the Ockhams, and Pip, we promised we'd say this, ding dong for books. Ring the bell.
Congratulations, Emily, and thanks once again to Jan Medlicott and the Acorn Foundation for their incredible generosity. Now that brings an end to our awards presentations for this evening, but before we leave the theatre, very quickly we'd like to invite up the co-founder of Ockham Residential, which, as you know, has been the award's fantastic naming sponsor since 2016. So to say a few words, please welcome Mark Todd.
Thanks, Jack. It's a bit embarrassing. May not do this again, but Nicola keeps inviting me up here. I'm a total monoglot, and I'm blown away by the joyousness and participation. The Te Reo Māori here this evening's been fantastic. I can't believe you come out with your fluent Te Reo jokes, and I reckon about half the audience understood and was laughing. Like, we live in an amazing country. Like, there's so much divisiveness in this world, but like, it's a beautiful country. We're all friends. Yeah, we've got some issues we're working through, and a lot of people in this room are helping us work through those issues, but it's truly humbling to see. I'm a monoglot, but I wanted to thank Mana Whenua Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei for graciously hosting us here tonight. I am a privileged, fifth generation Auckland. I love the whenua here. I know no other. I am truly privileged to stand up, speak at the end of the evening, such brave people, the artists and writers here that contribute to the narrative of Aotearoa. It's a truly exciting place. Like, what other continent would you want to live on? Let's not split hairs where it's better in Australia and New Zealand. This is a fucking great continent to live on. Like, it truly is. And I also wanted to acknowledge Prime Minister Chris Luxon for attending tonight, and Paul Goldsmith, Minister of Arts and Heritage. It's a very brave thing to do, to be a politician. Desley Simpson. It's not easy, and I commend you for coming here. It's notoriously liberal left-wing territory, but but you won the election, and fair credit, and everyone needs to acknowledge that. We've got a discussion that's ongoing, and I just hope that our writers and bilingual and trilingual citizens all get together and can contribute to this country, because it is a beautiful country with a big future. And thanks again for the privilege of reading and the stories that have all been contributed tonight. Thank you.
Tēnā koe. Thank you very much, Mark. 3 final thanks before we let you out this evening. Number 1, to the judges who had, as we heard, and as I'm sure we can all appreciate, an utterly impossible job in distinguishing between the long-listed finalists and the short-listed finalists tonight. Please join me in thanking this year's judges. To the publishers and authors for their contributions and for their readings this evening. And of course to Nigel, Gavin and Vox Nova for beating us through the evening. Now, a number of the Ockham's long-listed and shortlisted writers and winners are, of course, going to be appearing alongside a host of other international and local authors in the 2024 Auckland Writers' Festival at this venue over the next couple of days. I would be horrified to think that there is a person in this room who hasn't yet picked up a program or bought some tickets. If you haven't done so, there are programs outside. It is obviously a great way to support New Zealand publishing and writing at the Southern Hemisphere's largest literary festival. You can get your tickets at Ticketmaster or again outside. All of the titles that you have seen and heard from this evening are going to be available for purchase outside. So I will finish with the immortal words of late 90s/early 2000s pop sensation NSYNC. When I say bye, 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 bye. Time for us to celebrate. Nā reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.